It is News Radio 1029 KARN. I am your host, Brett Schmidt. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. 501-403-KARN, 501-403-5276. If you want to join the conversation, be a part of the discussion, weigh in on any of the things we're talking about today, especially today because it is Free Speech Friday. Anything you want to talk about is fair game. We do have some things on the list. Of course, the big news literally breaking right now as RFK Jr. still speaking that he is suspending his campaign and that he is endorsing former President Trump. So, of course, that's part of the discussion we're certainly going to have today. As I understand it, as I'm looking at the screen here in the studio, the TV in the studio, the rumors that I have been hearing, and those are just rumors. It's all they are. I have no proof or inside source that promises me it's true. But the rumors I've been hearing is that RFK Jr. has been potentially offered a cabinet level position, very likely the Department of Justice, and being named the Attorney General for President Trump's cabinet. So if RFK is nominated as the Attorney General, we will know that was actually true, but I guess we won't know until November and when Donald Trump wins, and then obviously in January when he begins naming his cabinet members. So we will see how it plays out, but as it stands right now, the big news of the day so far, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., independent candidate, former Democrat candidate, has suspended his campaign and has decided to endorse President Trump for the November election. So we'll talk about that today for sure. But like I said, it is Free Speech Friday, so anything you want to talk about is fair game. Of course, Kamala gave her speech last night, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch it. I couldn't bring myself to watch it. I couldn't do it. I tried. I just could not. I watched about a minute of the proceedings and said, nope, I'm done. I've wasted enough of my day already today talking about politics, and I just could not bring myself to do it. So instead, the wife and I enjoyed a nice evening at home, just enjoying each other's company. So, 501-403-KRN, 501-403-5276 if you would like to be a part of the discussion today. Of course, there is a whole lot of other things to get to. It's comical to me, just on a side note, it's comical to me. I'm seeing many people posting on Twitter that, I can't believe, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. he's a radical leftist, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And I don't understand why conservatives are so in love with this guy now. And this is part of the problem with political discourse at this point. If I say Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would make a decent attorney general because his father was killed, likely due to government corruption, and his willingness or desire to root out said corruption. His uncle was likely killed by someone within the CIA or something at some level, had some involvement in it, and government corruption resulted in the death of his uncle and his dad. His other uncle, that they never really seemed to get along very well, is believed by some, whether it's true or not, I guess we don't know, but believed by some to potentially have been involved in all of it because he had aspirations of one day being president. And in fact, his friends and him attempted to orchestrate a coup against Jimmy Carter in the 1980 election. And so if anybody understands government corruption and the need to rein in the illegal activities of the federal government, I think RFK Jr. would be pretty good at that. Now, that does not change the fact that I would be very concerned about RFK's policies as it relates to climate change. He is a radical extremist on the issue of climate change. He's got a lot of issues that I don't like. He is what my friend describes as a quote unquote good government guy. RFK believes that it's not that government in and of itself is problematic. It's just that we haven't had a good government. We just need more good government to counteract the bad government. And as I posted on my Twitter account today, the answer to problems created by the government is never more government. So there's a lot of things that I disagree with RFK Jr. on. I'm not in love with the guy. I don't think he's suddenly the greatest example of wise governance in the history of politicians. I just think that he might not make a bad attorney general. He's willing to fight back against the tyranny of the government involving themselves in the medical world and in the healthcare field. I think that's a good thing. There's a few things that I like about him, but I'm certainly not in love with him. And I'm certainly open-minded and open-eyed enough to know that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not the end-all and be-all of great politicians because he's now suddenly endorsed Donald Trump. So, but you can't have that conversation anymore. Certainly not on social media and even face to face. A lot of people, if you suggest that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a decent guy with a few good ideas, you're nothing but a commie traitor, and you should be excommunicated and potentially even hung at high noon on the steps of the Capitol. But then if you go to the other side and say, well, yeah, I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. seems like a decent guy, and I disagree with his policies, but he's got a few good ideas. Then the other thing is that, oh, you're a Democrat now. You're leaving the Republican Party all of a sudden. Or if on the other side of the aisle, you say, I don't like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at all. I think he's a bad idea. I think he's a terrible choice for any cabinet position because he's known to be a radical leftist Democrat. And then suddenly, well, why do you hate Donald Trump? He endorsed Donald Trump. And if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. endorsed Donald Trump, well, then you must hate Donald Trump because you said you don't like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. There's no room for having a rational discussion anymore. And it's become incredibly frustrating. Especially as a radio host. I get on a regular basis text messages and phone calls, some that say I'm a traitor because I refuse to bow down and worship at the altar of Trump Tower. But then in the very same show, sometimes even in the same segment, I get accused of being a Trump sycophant who believes that Trump is God. And so it's very frustrating. And the worst part, and I think the thing that's most frustrating, is that I've found myself falling into these same traps from time to time. So there's that. Well, with that, it is Free Speech Friday. Anything you want to talk about, like I said, is fair game. When we continue, we'll talk to Marco in North Little Rock. It's all coming up next on News Radio 102.9 KARN.